Hello everyone, welcome to my Tumult Championship deck lists. This is the first part where I get Axiom, Bravos and Lyra. So let's dive into the deck lists.
So the first deck we are going to look into is the Trace and Rossum deck, the Axiom one. So for me, Trace is really strong at the moment. Firstly, you need to make sure that you get out all those scrap counters out. So the first part of the game, what you really want to do is trying to get a lot of things in reserve and play them from reserve to get the counters. And as soon as you have that, then you can create a card advantage with the hero power. Also, you draw a card and you can play something from your hand. Well, some of the cards really are helpful with that. So I will start with the characters. Firstly, I will. Where is it? Yeah, the Killer Elemental is one of the key cards to keep in your opening hand. This card is just a 2-mana 1/3/3. It's really strong of winning a lane all by himself and getting the first card in reserve, so you can actually start from day one to add the counters. And if you have cards like the Salvager, for example, or even the Mechanic, there are cheaper ways to get them into the reserve and play them out. And I really like that. Also, the Sap Sniffer, it is a really good turn 1 play as well with the Keelan Elemental. But notice that this one also has a 0 in Forest, so you might get the 2-1 against you, but that's I guess it's fine. Sap Sniffer is not only really good in the early game, but also in the late game, specifically with our permanents. I run also Vike with Bazira, with the Izmir heroes, getting exhausted, resupplied a lot. Exhausted cards in reserve a lot by means of Aklut and stuff. Playing Vike, make sure that you can play still from your reserve. I think this is one of the key cards coming up in the meta with all those Akluts. I play 1 Gramps on the common and 2 in the rare. The common can just remove a permanent with hand cost 3 or less, and the rare with 5 or less. I run this because we need to have ways to remove festivals, remove the monoliths from the orders, and maybe there are some other permanents that we want to get rid of ourselves. Also, you can sacrifice a permanent of your own to create a brass bug. So effectively, this gets a 2-mana 4/4/4 or a 2-mana 3/4/4, which is also very good. You can split it on your expeditions as well. So it's a very flexible card. And with traced hero ability, you can even make sure that it goes from your hand to the reserve quickly to come up with a surprise discard. Amelia Earhart, it's most of the time a 1-mana 2/2/2. It's really strong. With Cylinder or the Bastion, it becomes a 1-mana 3/3/3. Really great stats to have. My other rare, and I think this is one of the most frustrating cards for me to play against. It's the Dr. Frankenstein. It's always like a 2-mana 4/4/4 with one of the permanents. If you have the Bastion out, it's also a resupply. So it's 2 mana, you get 4/4/4 and a resupply, which means you can play that probably as well. Somehow they always resupplying into a Salvager, playing the Salvager, resupplying again, and suddenly you only had 1 card in hand, and you can play like 3-4 cards. It's really, really great. I really love this, and also with the Cylinder, you can even give it another boost, so it can even become a 2-mana 5/5/5, and that are the stats that are required to win the late game. Because at first you're trying to build on the hero power and you're probably a little bit behind on the expedition, and if you don't, that's a really great job for you. But as soon as you're a little bit behind, you need the stats to make sure you can get the double progression, and Dr. Frankenstein is one of the cards that absolutely help you do that. I already mentioned them. My permanents, the Keelan Cylinder, it's a real great play with the Kill an Elemental on turn 1 as well. Just play the permanent into the reserve and get it onto the field, boost the Elemental as well. Afterwards, step it to gain 2 counters, and the next turn you can, well, even boost it further. This card is so flexible and it's so, well, underrated, I guess, because, well, you gain a boost when playing in well, every other turn as well. And it's in decks with a lot of characters, this is always where can I block my opponent with that one boost, or where can I just top my opponent on the boost. It's a really strong card, and every time I play against Traced and with this card on the field, I'm like, okay, I need to up the expedition with 2 power, otherwise there's just coming 1 boost and they're blocking me or they're over me or something like that. And the flexibility to choose either way of the expeditions, it's really, really great. Haven, Bravos Bastion, getting you a resupply, and for the next of the game, well, one of your characters gains one boost. Really great with Dr. Frankenstein, really great with things like Amelia Earhart, even with the Sap Sniffer. If you play this with the Sap Sniffer comes in, gets a boost, and can augment himself. So if we look at this, you get a 1 mana 2/3/3. It's really, really strong, and yeah, this card is phenomenal in the common section. Also Gibble, we now saw a permanence there. It's most of the time it's here because of the support ability. You can activate the ability of target permanent you control, get this thing in the reserve, remove it for the support ability, get a counter of Traced, maybe resupplying with the Haven Bastion, replacing itself for free. So it's a really strong card. Even in late game, a 6 mana 5/5/5 and a 2/2 is really strong as well. Sometimes it gives you the potential to get 2 lanes there. So it's also flexible. And for the spells, we got, of course, Frozen Delivery. 1 mana after you put something in the reserve for you, so that you can start getting counters from Traced. Yeah, it's really great. Play this on turn 1 to have, maybe have some options to play directly from the reserve. So if you get something like a Salvager or like a Killer Elemental, Amelia Earhart, really great things to get from turn 1. Hooked. This card is here, 1, for the card advantage, so for the draw a card, it's really great, but also to make sure that you don't get behind while setting up. So if you're like getting against fast Bravos heroes, or maybe against other decks that are very aggressive in expeditions, you can make sure that you only will tie in an expedition, or maybe only go 1-0 while drawing a card, getting the things in you want to have. So it's really great spell. I think one of the best cards at the moment. And I run 1 Avalanche just because I think I needed it. Axiom doesn't have a lot of great removal tools, so having the Avalanche here is, I think, really great to have. So for the Unix for Traced, it just probably put some cards from your hand in reserve, just to get those things going. I have a Foundry Mechanic which can be a 1 mana 3/3 with the put a card from your hand in reserve. It needs to be a permanent. I run low permanents, but that's okay. Otherwise, it's just a 1 mana 1/1. I got a Magpan Hoarder that resupplying from the start, and if I get 2 or more cards in reserve, I even get to give a boost out. It's really great. And the other card I have is like the Bravos Vanguard. Again, I may put a card from my hand in reserve. And whenever I play a permanent, I can have target character other than me lose fleeting and gain 1 boost. I think those are not the greatest uniques you can have in a Trace deck, but they are certainly helpful to get the things going. So this is it for my traced and Rosm deck. As you can see here on Jordat, the mana curve is really low. There aren't a lot of big things. We have several 6-cost like the Gibble, and the Frankenstein is the 4-cost. You probably never played it. Always played it from reserve. Just early game, try to get the counters in. Late game, try to get the stats in. With all those small and cheap things, you have a lot of knowledge on the board probably, because you played all those small things, and your opponent probably has a lot of bigger and more expensive characters and spells. So you will be able to get at least a 1/1 every day as soon as the hero power is on. And with things like the Cylinder, the Bastion, and the Hooked, those stats and the maneuverability are really great. So let's move on to the next one. So the next one is my Kojo deck. Kojo Buddha, of course, if you're the first player, you create that Buddha token in your companion expedition, getting that aggressive playstyle. For me, the playstyle is like, as soon as I get a Buddha token, I can play one of my permanents, like Haven, because I already had that token to begin with to set up, getting more and more stats, or even the mess to set up my card advantage. I can try to go for a 2-0 or 2-1, because I already have 2 stats more than my opponent at the start of the turn. So it's really a great hero power. On the turns I'm second, I'll normally try to play a little bit more conservative to get that 1/1 at least every day. That's the game plan of the deck. Well, to start off, we have the Tiny Djinn over here. The Tiny Djinn is, I think, one of the best Brothels cards at the moment. It's just a 1-mana 0/0 who can win an expedition on his own, and from the reserve it's a 2-mana 1/3/1. Also really great mountain stats for that cost, but as soon as he gets boosted, he will get into your mana zone and ramp you a little bit, and I think that's exactly what you want to do with this kind of deck. So you want to be aggressive. You have a lot of 2 and 3 cost characters to push for that 2-0 advantage, and if you have more mana, you can spend more mana, but means you probably can have a little bit more power on the board to get those 2-0s in. My other cards are, of course, the Fire Rabbit. I got 2 of this and 2 of the Ishumboshi. Just like cards like the Tiny Djinn, the Mighty Djinn, they tend to be a little bit lower on the water side, so I need to balance it a little bit. Also, to have a little bit more flexibility, I run 7 1-cost characters, and I think that's a little bit of the sweet spot between getting them in early enough of the times and not having to draw them later in the game too much. So the Rabbit, just give another character a boost if you need to, but it's also really great to just play it for 1 mana 1/1/0, let the opponent choose something, and then you can choose which side you can win on. So I think it's really flexible. For me, this card is really nice in the early game to get that Buddha turn, getting in that 2-1 or 2-0 advantage. So it's really nice. Ishumboshi as well. Sometimes it's just a 1-mana 2 water, and sometimes the next character you play this turn gains 1 boost. Some people run Aklut in the deck as well, and then Ishumboshi also becomes a little bit better. For me, I tried Aklut, was not as well. I wasn't happy with it, so I thought about it, and I got it for a little bit of another playstyle. I think the first common in every Brothels deck, the Haven Seringar, getting that card draw in is really great. Sometimes you need to find answers. Sometimes you need the card draw. You can play it into the Arcolano Milk, getting a 4/2/2, give it fleeting, and at the end of the turn draw a card to get cycling in your deck to look for the other things you have there. It's a really strong card, specifically with the 3 and Forest. The Pathfinder is the other way around, 0 in focus, but a 3/3 on mountain and water. This card is really great in the early stages for getting the 2/1, but also in later stages when you are on the water and mountain expeditions to get yourself a progression there. From the reserve, it is most of the time with the Bravos Bastion a 1/4/4, and on the correct things it's just a 2-mana 4-stat, and it's really overstatted at that moment, and it's really rough for the opponents to beat. And we do need those stats coming in later in the game to finish ourselves against things like Sigismar and Trist. But also against the Bazira, they tend to have a lot of big things on the field. Things like Aklut boosted, and the Bravos Pathfinder from reserve is really good to stop them. Chiron, it's just a real flexible card. Sometimes you can put a boost on the other expedition where it is. Sometimes you play it on a tiny djinn to get it into the mana first turn. It's really great, a flexible card to have. For me, it's surely a 3-up. Then I run Tooth Fairy. This card is, I think, directly interchangeable with the Order Spy, specifically with the Mess. You get 2 bodies with the Spy, so it's a little bit of a personal preference. For me, I needed and I wanted to have a little bit more of a 2-cost character, so that's why I played the Tooth Fairy. But I think the upside from playing it from hand is for Tooth Fairy, and the upside playing from reserve is for the Order Spy, because you get the token for 2 mana. It's a little bit more stats, so I think both can be really great. Haven Bouncer, just a sabotage over there, and the 3 mana 3/3/3 from reserve is okay, nothing spectacular, but we run it for a sabotage. Most of the games we try to get ahead by pushing expeditions and getting the card advantage in as well, because we also have Buddha. With this card we can make sure that the opponent has less cards to play and while winning the expedition, so I think this card is really great. Mighty Djinn, I love the Mighty Djinn for firstly the card draw, but also for the ramp. Normally I would play this from a hand in the expedition, draw a card, and as soon as it has fleeting, I will put it into the mana. Not always the case. Sometimes you need a card draw to get your hand stacked, and maybe you already had 1 or 2 tiny djinns into the mana, but normally that is a little bit of the case. It doesn't have any water, and that's one of the weaknesses of the djinns. If you're playing against it, make sure that the Kojo or the Bravos player stays on water. It helps you a lot. And my last card is the Hunger. With the Mighty Djinn, the Tiny Djinn, you're ramping probably a little bit faster than their opponent, so you have a little bit more plays in the later games. This card is really needed to win against the Muna multi-anchor heroes. The Goblin heroes, you can have this to win. But also, if you're just next to each other on your expeditions, you can play this and get the final push in, removing everything from the reserve, from play, from the landmark zone. Have the Hunger in. Probably it's like an 8 mana, 8/8 or something, and it's really hard for the opponent to get over it. So I think this is one of the finishers of the game. Also, Aquilana Milk, sometimes you want those stats in against the Trace to secure the win, against that Sigismar to secure the win, and then the Milk is really handy, specifically with cards like the Pathfinder from reserve. It gets a 2 mana 5 stat in Water and Forest. Those things are really great to make sure you get the win in. Also with the Hunger, if you play the Hunger from hand into the Milk, it gets fleeting and then it gets gigantic. So I think that's a really a cool game mechanic as well. I only run 1 because I don't think we need more. The Mess, specifically good in Kojo decks. As soon as something leaves your expedition, you get a food counter, and with 3 food counters you can resupply. with the amount of characters we have, you probably get something into reserve that can be played into the expedition zone, giving it a food counter back as soon as it gets removed at the end of the day. Really good for the card advantage. Really needed against things like maybe Trace, Sigismar, to make sure that you have enough options to play. And of course the staple Bravos Bastion. You can resupply and all your characters gains 1 boost from reserve. It's a really strong card. Again, we have a lot of characters, so the resupply will probably get you, well, a lot of the time a character that can be played in the next turn, giving that 1 boost, and that's great. My removal suite, Duel of Grid. I think this is one of the best cards at the moment to include in the Bravos for removal. It's just a spell with fleeting, so you get only 1 use of it, but the discard of the target character with hand cost less or equal than one of your characters is the thing that's great. So discarding their card advantage as well is making sure that they get, well, less resources to play in, and we do love to well, we'll win the resource battle here ourselves. So that's why I think Duel of Grid Rare is phenomenal. Intimidation. Sometimes you just need to remove something like a festival, or something like your own Seringar, or well, it's a really great card to make sure that you get that final push in. Also against things like Traced or Sigismar, getting those Frankensteins removed, or maybe those Kakobas being removed. It's really great for those kinds of matchups as well. For uniques, we are really flexible. I use my draw uniques, so I need some landmarks. I run 5 to make sure that I draw a lot of cards. Also, my Ozma is drawing some cards and resupplying some things. And my Bela Senka is more like the other part of the card advantage, making sure that my opponent doesn't have cards. So sabotaging, exhausting is also really great. And this one gets boosted by himself. So if I put in things like a Tiny Djinn or something, it gets boosted by himself, and that's the way I also win 2 lanes. With this card I maybe should, and with the mess and this card I'd probably change up the Tooth Fairy to the Spy, but yeah, so this is my deck again. You see a fairly low curve, the 2 costs, so you really want to play those 3 cards every time to also make sure that the mess has 3 foot counters in. Yeah, and we want to finish the game with the hunger. So this is my Koji deck. Let's look on to the next one. So for Lyra, I got a Venom Crowbar list. Venom and Crowbar. You can only draw 1 card, and you put the top of the card in the mana zone instead of a card of your hand. So effectively you're getting that card advantage, because at noon you will resupply. So every day you get a card in your hand, get a card in the resupply, and get a card in the mana. And well, over time you probably will get the card advantage over your opponent here. I think I play a fairly simple list with Martingales, just a simple the 1 mana card with the support ability. The next card you play this turn costs 1 less. I also win the Bassis just because I needed another 1-drop with 2 in water. I think it's okay, and from the reserve it gets probably 2 boost as well, because well, we run a lot of 0 status characters. This card is really great to get resupplied with Ven, just like the Martingale. You have well, some support abilities that are really great to use as well. I want to have a lot of stats on the board. Magpin Hoarder, if I have 2 or more cards in reserve, which is most of the time the case. This one is just a 2 mana 3/3/3. Yeah, just to battle some of the well, high cost status, just to make sure that we can win the expedition. The Lyra Contortionist is just a 2-mana that doesn't count towards reserve limit. We really want this card to be around for the Hoarders, for the Anansis. I think it's really great. If you got some uniques that say discard a card from reserve, this one is also really great at the target. So I think this one is really cool. The Incaster, I think one of the most notorious turn 1 plays is like the Magical Training into the Incaster, giving the Magical Training back to your hand at the end of the turn, because as soon as this goes from the Expedition Zone, you may return a card. And that's, I think, the name of the game of most of the Vanguard builds at the moment. As well, if it's in reserve, you can play 2 mana for 2/2, or you just can make sure that the cost get reduced of the next card you play with the support ability. Hathor, again, a real great card to get a card advantage going. This card is for the support ability to get those magical trainings or acapella trainings back to your hand. I think it's really great. 2 mana, a 3/3 in Forest and Mountain is also really great. Yeah, just a little bit up of the curve. Yeah, what more can I say about this card? Will-O-Wisp is a really great turn 1 play, and sometimes also when you need to move out of the water, because a lot of our stuff, well, like the Hathor, like the Contortionist and the Martingales and stuff, don't have a lot of water. That's why I play the Will-O-Wisp. If your opponent plays something with 3 mana and it's not into water, play this on turn 1 and they don't even move forward. Again, if you get this on later games, resupply the stuff, you can well, just discard it for that cost reduction once again. Anansi, most of the games are like, do I see my Anansi? And you probably get a win, and if you don't, it's a little bit harder to win. He gains 1 boost per card in your reserve. It should be easy to have like 5 cards in reserve with this to get a 3 or 2 mana 7/7/7. I think that's fairly common. Just to play out those Requiements as well, the Twinkle Twinkles, they get into reserve, like almost all of your spells stay there, and get that well, boost for the Anansi as well. The Little Mouse, I find myself that this card is really needed against some decks, specifically if you're playing against Bazira and they're gonna outloot from reserve with their own ability, the Bazira ability and a Haven ability. You probably only play from hand, and that's sometimes really rough. So play the Little Mouse, discard that card. I think it's fine. They get a resupply, but well, I don't think that matter a lot. Just a really great card, and yeah, I play 2 of them. Also, Aloe Vera. Yeah, it's a great card to have, and getting those resupplies in. You can play it probably on turn 2 with the Anchor, and it stays there overnight. It gets you a resupply, getting those card advantage in, getting all those things in the reserve to get Anansi boosted, to get the Magpan Hoarder boosted and stuff. So I think this is also a really great card, also to offset the water weakness. Acapella Training. The aggressive deck's worst card to see. Just like if you play something like Kojo or Bazira or maybe Sigismar, this card breaks the card advantage from turn 1. Specifically if you can get them back with the Ouroboros, Incaster, or some other ways, so with your uniques maybe, and playing this card over and over again, make sure that you will set up for a really good early game and getting those card advantage in, specifically combined with your hero power as well. It's really great. Magical Training, 1 mana, draw a card, cycle it back to your hand, draw a card again. I think it's great. This is, if you see Magical Training in the matchup, you're probably really happy getting those cards in, giving you some options to play against your opponent. It's really great. Just as it is for Bravos a really great card, it's also for Lyra a great card, so Duel of the Grid find its way in my deck here as well. I run two of them to make sure that I can discard things that well, needed to be discarded. As we only have 3 or less mana characters, we can probably only effectively get removed things by 3 or less. I think that's okay. Yeah, it's here just to get sure that, again, winning the card advantage battle, and make sure that your opponent discarded his character instead of send it to reserve. Twinkle Twinkle can be played twice to finish the game, but it can also be played from hand, and maybe put something like an Anansi on the field and then discard it for his support ability, making something else be costing a little bit less. It's great, I think. And also a Requiem, it's a little bit like the doable crit, but then we need a fleeting or a sleep character. I think the cooldown here is nice. You can play 2 mana and discard something with 4 mana or less, specifically like a permanent. So it does hit those magic deaths, those festivals and stuff. So I think that is really nice. And also in the Bravos matchups, you can remove the Mess and the Bastions on equal ground. So you only play 2 to remove it to cost permanent. I think it's really great. Specifically, it got cooldown. That's why I like it so much. Anansi get boosted, Hoarder get boosted, and you can even get this back to your hand with things like the Hathor or the Incaster. So it's a really strong card. I just run 1 Cloth Cocoon to make sure that I can hit those hives and stuff. So that's one of the weaknesses of this deck for me at the moment. If you play something that is a permanent of 5 or 6 cost, then we probably get into trouble. That's why the single Cloth Cocoon is here. For my uniques, I run a Paper Herald. Each character controlled by target player gains fleeting. In the early games, against a lot of Bravos and against Traced, against Sigismar, this card is so strong. Just play it, make sure that everything they have, get fleeting, combined with the Incaster. Play the Incaster first, afterwards the Paper Herald, they'll get back to reserve. Incaster can get the Paper Herald back to your hand and you can play it from hand again. It's a really nice combination as well to get the card advantage in. Or I can just play my Martingale, getting those cards cycled in, return a card from your reserve to your hand is great, specifically on an arrow ability. It also has the support ability that the normal one has, and at dusk I can put a card from my hand in reserve and I can return a spell back to my hand as well. So normally I would loop this with Magical Training, play this Martingale, play Training again, put something back from my hand, get the Training back. So I have multiple things with Magical Training there. Also, a Capella Training can be very nice as well, specifically on turn 2 against those early set aggressive decks. So it's really great. And the last one, again, when you roll one of my dice, character in play reserve automatically gains 1 boost. I don't roll a lot of dice, but for me it's about the second ability. As soon as I move forward, each character controlled by target player gains fleeting. Again, just to make sure that everything from the get-go gets fleeting, get in us card advantage, make sure that the opponent doesn't have a lot of cards to play. So it's great. Just also on turn 1, if the opponent is playing something, you play this, you probably win the turn. On mountain at least, giving them fleeting, and it's really great. Said earlier, I don't run anything above 3 cost, so I can play a lot of small things to make sure the Manansis are big enough. The Manansis are making sure that they're big enough and can win the lane. So that's the deck for me.
Thanks for watching my video. I hope these lists help you battle the Tumult Championships and help you win that beautiful looking Hunger Mat or even the Tumult Champion card. This was only part 1. I will have soon the part 2 with the other 3 decks available. If you can't wait for my list, please look on my name on Majordat or at all the TCG blog where I post my list already. I am the Bravos Hester and I hope to see you soon.